We're here to talk about An Iliad. I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity to engage with you all and have the conversation. I'm encouraging you to put your questions in the chat. Typically, Hannah would be running this, so if you see me flailing, in a spirit of forgiveness, watch me flail and I'll find your questions in a minute. Hannah, poor Hannah, is sitting next to me like, God, is this going to be okay? It'll be fine. I want to start by saying welcome and thank you for being with us. We are delighted to be able to have an opportunity to chat with James DeVita and Alicia Storin, who are the performers in our beautiful production of An Iliad by Dennis O'Hare and Lisa Peterson, and invite any of you who weren't able to see our Beyond the Plays discussion with them about working on this script. That's on our YouTube channel. So I invite you to watch that. It's really fascinating. Look, there's a chat already. I'm inviting now Alicia and Jim to put their beautiful faces on the screen so I'm not alone.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
Delighted you're here. How's it going? I mean, that's just the simplest way to start any conversation. I have more in-depth, how's it going, and people will have questions in chat. And we are having feedback. Sorry. I'll stop talking so you can talk and it won't feedback. Jim? Okay, here's the biggest question. We're back at this play after many years. The team is together. We've come through the pandemic. We're doing it again. How are we?
Well, the big thing that changed, we are now up to, I think, 50% audience capacity. And last night was the first time that it was optional to be masked or not. So I saw faces for the first time in a theater in 16 months. So that was exciting.
Alicia, for you?
I've never been more thankful to do anything in my entire life. So that's been my frame of mind this entire third round of Iliad with everybody. So.
Oh, I do want to show the audience who's not aware that Jimmy and Alicia did this show together at Milwaukee Rep in a third very different production of this. So you have 3 iterations of this. And I'll just share that when I called Alicia to say, hey, what do you think? You think we're going to do this again? I think both of us cried spontaneously.
Yeah.
About being able to do this again. But how have these different iterations lived for both of you?
Well, I think what's wonderful about this play is first of all, the play is whoever does it. It changes with the person doing it and with the muse. And it also changes with the world. I think the first time we did this, I'm not sure, Alicia, it was like 8 years ago or something, 7-ish, 8. That was at the Milwaukee Rep, which was a much different iteration of this play, about as different as you can get between 2 conceptual realizations of a play. And then we did it at APT, which was much more intimate. And this time, 6-7 years later, I'm not sure how long it is, the world has definitely changed, as we all know. We all changed these last 15 months. And it's the thing I'm learning about the plays is we've said this before in theory, you meet the audience with the story wherever they are, because they are the world. And telling this story after a year of COVID and losing 600,000 people in our country, it just has all this frighteningly relevant resonances through the play, which deals with leadership and compassion or the lack thereof. It deals with war, it deals with the waste of people that could be saved that are not in this story. So it's just full of resonances, and whether you hear that or not is not the point of the play. I'm aware as the storyteller how different it is. When I turn around, and for the last 3 weeks or so, I turn around and I see a scattering of people with masks on. And I'm the poet, that is my audience. I'm not pretending not to see them. And that alone is a powerful moment. It's representative of our world, not just our country, our world today. So I don't know if I answered your question rather than just the details of how it's different, but I think the world is different, the audience is different. So John Langs and Alicia and I, tonally, we created a different take on this show. It is the same character from the last time, but in a different context. And so he has changed and the story has changed.
From your perspective, Alicia, and then I have a wonderful question now that we've said how the play has changed. How has the play changed you? Jim, I'm going back with you on that one next. How's the play changed for you, Alicia? I remember, weren't you up in the above in the powerhouse? Talk to about that, how the relationship between the muse and the poet has evolved.
It has changed wildly. The first time I was up on like a 10 or 12 foot platform in the back of the stage behind a scrim. There was like little to no direct interaction between Jimmy and I. And to fast forward to what we're doing today, where our relationship grows every single time, and there's just a greater depth to it. And I'm sure for you, Jimmy, too, but there's always just more of a backstory that I'm creating in my brain as far as what's going on. And it's just always more and more fun and satisfying, and more to be discovered every single time. And it's never boring. I just love it with all my heart.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, since we met, we've always considered ourselves, I think, artistic partners, but in the version at the Rep and I was higher than 12 foot. It gets bigger every time we tell the story. I think it was like 25 foot at least. But you were so far away, there was no real relationship. And then we broke that in the production prior to this, where you actually came down on the stage. And you're still in the same, but now I think we really explored how much can we mine of our relationship, you and I. And that's completely changed the play for me. And it's it's like having your muse with you on stage. I literally do now. And you help me when I need it, both as the muse and the performer, which there's a lot of meta stuff going on here, because we are who we are. I'm a poet telling a story, and you're a musician. And I often need you as the actor and as the poet. So I can't even really think it. They're kind of the same person. The poet is a storyteller. He's not like I don't know, may sound bad, but I'm not like creating a character. I'm trying to be open enough as me, Jim DeVita, to tell this story as the poet. It's a long way of saying I just love having Alicia on stage with me, my muse, and we actually have dialogue. She plays music and I hear dialogue in it. And also, not just that, I can tell by her expressions and her eyes. And it's so wonderful in a quote, one person play to make it a two-person play. And to have my partner out there, and she, guiding me, encouraging me, pulling me back. So I love it. I think that's the thing that's changed the most, I think, is the relationship between the muse and the poet.
From the outside, and then I'd love to hear Alicia's perspective. From the outside, we get to watch tech rehearsals, and we see the play grow and change as it's getting ready for you all to come and see it. And every time when you were finished, the first thing you did was check in with each other. Like, that's the first thing. Like, it was like, we're on the other side of this. And the play ends with a moment like that. But talk about meta, to see you as artists connect afterwards, it just felt like part of the routine, that you were pulling each other to the other side. And it's beautiful to watch. And Alicia, it has evolved. Your character is different now than it was in this last version, but the designs have changed as well. So how has that been in your experience?
Well, to kind of go off of what Jimmy was just saying, how there's a lot of meta things happening, and that, like, I'm so thankful for that quality of this, what I have to do out there, because like, I am in no way any sort of actor. And like, just the idea of like having to like try to do that is terrifying to me. But like, I literally just am the person that I am out there, like, to an extent. I'm not magical yet, but like, it just helps me so much, because it's like the things that I'm expressing and showing with my face, and especially this time around, it's just like, no, that's pretty much just me. Like, I don't have to try, I don't have to fake it, I don't have to think like, what would the muse do here? It's like, well, no, like it's just so intertwined, like the muse and who I am. And, it's just been, that has been like such a boon for me, especially more and more that I do this show, and I get, a better idea of just like how to inhabit that space and not psych myself out about it, because, I definitely can be like, I'm just a cellist. What am I doing?
We have some music questions. You're an extraordinary musician, and I was so thrilled to be able to hear you play for us at the Slowpoke. I hope we get to do that again before you recount. So we have two questions about the music. One from Donna. Is the musical score the same in all three productions, or has the music changed? And are you using a score, or are you improvising?
So for all three of these shows, we have used a sound design by brilliant composer Josh Schmidt, and he also designed all the sound that you hear coming through the speakers. That was from a recording session that we did 1,000 years ago. And each time it does change because, we find different ways for me to converse with Jimmy, or at Jimmy, or in reaction to Jimmy, or I should say the poet, whatever, it's all the same. But every time it changes a little bit. So like if you look at like the script score from each thing, you'll see different cues and different starts and stops, and even those sections will have different intentions behind them. Like, like this time around, like I'm not always saying the exact same thing that I was, even if it is the same music in that one part as last time. As far as improvising, there are elements of improvisation, but it is within the score. So there'll be an indication of like, here's 4 measures or 8 measures of music, but play it in a way that is supporting the poet or reacting to the poet, or, creating whatever mood it needs to be. So there's several parts in the play that are like that. Most notably, what we like to call in rehearsal, the berserk section, where Patroclus is fighting, and it's like the super active part of the play. And so that's probably the biggest improvised section that I have. There's a few others, so yeah.
The way you describe it, Alicia, when you say you're not an actor, is exactly what great actors do. You have to do your blocking, you have to say the words the playwright gave you, but you have to stay alive to the moment and your partner. Jim, you're feeling that you're out there with a partner.
Oh gosh, yes, and it's part of the joy of having done this 3 times with the same crew, the same artistic team, and Alicia and I have grown as artists together, in every way, not just as artists, as people with lives and family, and I learned some time ago that all of that makes an artist. I think there's a fallacy about you leave, which I did for many years. You leave it at the door. Nothing comes at, you leave everything at the door. You come in here, you're an artist, and that's what you do. And I disagree with that now. I think what makes complicated people on stage, actors, is that they bring their lives with them. They let it be a part of them. So if there's loss in your life, I imagine the same is true, right, Alicia, of music. If there's loss, it shows in your music. If there's joy, it shows in your music. And it's I don't think that's a negative thing. I don't think it's hurting the story in any way, because to me, scripts are living documents to me. And everybody agrees with that. I don't think they're set, because it's a human being telling the story. It's not a character that was somebody else did or some playwright set in stone. I don't believe that. I think that's why I say, like, no matter, when I'm directing, like somebody's directing, playing Hamlet, I want to take any onus off of them to be original, because you cannot help but be original if you bring your heart into the role. And that's work. I mean, it's not like, that's a lot of work to be open to that, emotional work, to be able to make yourself available and be intimate with an audience and say, this is me. Like you were just saying, Alicia, like, this is just me. To me, that's the pinnacle of good acting, because we're so often, and I'm guilty of it myself, of trying to do more, thinking I have to entertain more or be more of something. And no, it's bringing all the skill, and you too as a musician, the skill and craft There's a lot of skill and years of craft of language and storytelling, and I'm sure that obviously the same with music. And then how do we get out there and just be, look at an audience and say, this is me. And I'm still working on that, but that is the kind of, that's the ongoing work for me. If that makes any sense. I just got off on that, but.
Oh, it does for me so much, Jim. I mean, it's a younger person's gig, the putting as much stuff as you can into a smaller box as you can. Like, I've got 3 lines in this play and I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to have so much story in those 3 lines. And then you get more and more experience. And it may be, I'm not sure as a musician, Alicia, if your interest in virtuosity as a younger artist versus your interest in communication and letting where you are right now speak through the music. And in hearing you discuss what it's like and what Jimmy's poet this time, the poet last time felt to me, and I'd love some feedback from both of you, that it was more of a character. I felt a story about that guy. And I watch this play now, and I know you well. I have the privilege of knowing you very well, Jim. And I feel like it's as close to that authentic showing up as I've seen. And when I saw Alicia's costume design, I was like, oh, I'm going to get to see Alicia and Jim telling this story. So yeah, does that have any kind of resonance for you as well, Alicia? That's some of the simplicity and connection, as opposed to here's how much I can do all the time.
Oh God, absolutely. It's been a slow, change over many years, especially maybe the past 5 years, where from like discussions with some other like brilliant friends of mine and just like listening to things and the highly painful process of sometimes recording myself and listening to it, that it's like, well, wait, all of that perfection does not create something moving or necessarily good. And I've learned really to let exactly what Jimmy was saying, like a score is like, I feel like a living document. Like you have to let it breathe, and like not all of the notes that you need are there, not literally notes, but like, like the details that you need to play the music. It's like, just like, it's a blueprint, and there's so many directions for it to go. And like, that's why everybody plays Bach, because everybody does it differently, and I'm so interested in just finding how to make it breathe and how to make it more personal, so yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to just describe to me good acting, great acting, and I'm sure it's true with any art form, I would imagine, even if you're, painting, creating something, building something. And I don't. It's not in a negative way as a younger actor trying to do that. I think it's a really natural if we're.
You kind of have to start there to get to the place, to have enough to reveal. You have to put some stuff in there to show.
Yeah, before you can take it away sometimes. But if we're fortunate to be in this any art form for a long time, of course you grow. If you're rigorous, you keep growing, and as a very mentor of mine once said, like, you can't get any better by doing the same thing that you've always done harder. At some point you have to let go of something, and it's not always doing more of something, it's bearing something, and that's the harder work and the scarier work. But I find as a young artist, we don't even know that's there. You kind of have to do all this other stuff, and then you realize, okay, I've done all of that, but I'm still not, what's that next thing? And it's often that's when now you have to start looking for the other stuff. I know that's very amorphous what I'm saying, but I think it's true as we grow in this art form. You don't just, I think growth is not like, you don't go like this. Growth isn't like, hopefully like stocks, but failure, little failure, but you're on the way. And so yeah, it's a long-term game, and craft.
I was thinking of, I think Brenda DeVita, our artistic director, and your wife, had a little thing, how you think it's going to go, a line between 2 points. and how it actually goes. And then there's this like complete chaotic, crazy scribble. And then you get to the thing. And another sort of, I don't know, approximate, but was it conversation with you, Jim? We talked about Picasso later in his life selling drawings, line drawings. Oh God, I thought it felt like it was you. I made it up. I didn't make up the conversation, but I made it up. It was with you. That somebody was like $500. This is like 3 lines. And he said, no, this is, in a Picasso way, this is 60 years of that dove comes from all of my experience. So you're standing there and saying, just looking at the audience, you're bringing you're bringing Romeo, and you're bringing Benedict, and you're bringing Richard III. And it's our proximity to your growth that also is so meta about that moment this time around for me as an audience member and admirer of your work. And to see that grow in the relationship with Alicia has been such a joy. Hannah gave me a time, and I know that Jimmy is walking. He's got a very rigorous prep. Hold on, let me make, there's a Q&A. This is a great way to end this conversation. Susan, thank you. How do you both come down after a performance? It's so emotional and exhausting. How do you take care of yourselves? Can both of you do your version of that before we say goodbye to our audience?
Right afterwards, I make sure that I wait and see Jimmy and, you know, just say hello and hug each other and just check in. And then, you know, just kind of, we're both just quiet in our dressing rooms and just kind of sitting with whatever. And just, I don't know about you, Jimmy, but I'm just like thinking about how everything felt that night and how it went and all that. And it's become less exhausting that since we started running it, like during, you know, Tech Week or before, and I would like do one show and just be completely destroyed. You know, we built up stamina for that. So that's nice. Like I'm not like completely physically gone anymore afterwards. So it's just like, for me, it's just like a little bit of quiet time and slowly like reaching out to the world again and like, you know, checking my phone and, you know, saying like, okay, like the world is still going and I'm just going to put this in my pocket and take with me to my apartment and on to the next show, whether that's in a few hours or the next day or 3 days.
Yeah, kind of everything Alicia just said. We do have some similarities to our personalities that way. But I too, the first thing is we meet in the hallway, just check in with each other, which doesn't always need words. We just need to check in with each other. And then, and I think some people often, because there's a lot of stuff happens in the play, do you like take that stuff home with you? And I think part of the dramatic artist in me wants to say yes, but no. I think if you do your job, you kind of leave it on the stage. And it's in a way it's oddly purging because you get to go through all these emotions, and we often say it's a truth. We've talked to doctors about it. Like your body doesn't know you're pretending. If you hit authenticity, which doesn't happen all the time, but there's quite often when the things are happening authentically, your body doesn't know the difference. So you are going through those feelings, and it's releasing the same kind of chemicals in your body that rage or horror or joy or happiness, laughing, crying, it's all real. So in a way it's kind of purging. I think some people kind of like pay therapy to be able to do some of the stuff I do. So it's kind of a feeling of being, it's not a negative exhaustion. It's like a kind of cleansing or purging of something. And then yeah, it's not the kind of, you know, maybe my age too, but not the kind of play like you go and have drinks at the bar and celebrate. I think it's a kind of, you go and sit and you be quiet because the audience went through this with you also. And so yeah, it's that's about it. Yeah, once we check in, we're pretty quiet until we say, "Good night, Alicia. Good night, Jimmy."
That quiet afterwards, I think, thank you, is shared by the audience. We have I don't know if you that are here for the talkback are aware that we have a performance report. And that's my ritual at the end of the night, is to wait for the performance reports to come in. And that's my good night. So I'm waiting to check in with all of you via that report. And one of the things that is in the report, number of people in the house and how certain moments went, and whether a phone went off, but also, was there silence in the blackout? When did the response from the audience happen? And one of the things that was curious to us about this iteration was that often the play ends in the same need for silence of the audience, that it can be sort of virtuosic and sometimes everybody, but more often than not, as I read those reports, it takes longer than you might imagine. And in previews, we were like trying to start the thing for people. They knew the play was over. They didn't need my cue that they were supposed to clap at the end of a play, but they needed a moment. So I think that's shared by us as well. Anyway, I'm very grateful for all of you 40 brave souls who joined us on this bumpy Zoom day. I'm grateful to have had time with you, Jimmy, and you, Alicia, to talk about this beautiful play. And I can't wait to see it again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful audience.